In this video, we're going to look at analyzing the registry, the Windows Registry, located on a forensic image that we have acquired. There's a couple ways to do this. If you remember from the last video which files are important to the registry, it depends on what information we want to gather from the registry. For this demonstration, we're going to gather two different pieces of information. One of them is the USB keys that were inserted into the computer that we acquired evidence from, or acquired the image from. The other is we're going to figure out which programs are set to automatically run on the computer. So those are two different hives of the registry, and actually two different files. So the first thing we want to do is mount the image. There's a couple ways to do this. You can mount an image as read-only. You can mount the forensic image as read-only, or you could use a tool like Autopsy or Encase and extract the relevant registry files. In this situation, I'm going to mount the image read-only using FTK Imager, which allows you to create an image as well as mount an image. And then I'm going to copy the relevant registry files to a system on this computer here, which is the forensic workstation. So the first thing we're going to do is double click on Access Data FTK Imager. Go ahead and click on Yes here. We'll start this up. And over here on File, you see Image Mounting. So this allows you to mount an image as if it's a plugging the hard drive directly into your computer, basically. The image file, I'm going to browse, and we'll pick one here. So under your lab files, forensic images, let's go to Maryville malware. We'll select that one. I'm going to select Maryville _malware.e01. FTK can mount in-case images as well as raw images in pretty much any format. So we'll see what happens with that. It may take a second. And you see it asks you how you want to mount it. You can mount the physical drive and the logical drive, or just one of those. You see here physical only or logical only. For the purposes of what we're doing, technically we only need to mount the logical drive, which is the file system partition, but we can go ahead and mount both so you can see what they look like. I'm going to choose a letter. You need to be careful, make sure the drive letter is not one that's already being used. So in this case, I'm going to choose R, since we're analyzing the registry. R for registry. I'll click on mount, and it'll tell you if R is used. Alright, R was not used, and it mounted both of those. So we see we have the physical drive mounted, which we could see this with a disk manager if we wanted to. And we have drive R mounted to partition 1 on that image. And if we move that over, we see that image is an NTFS image. I'll click on close here. I'm just going to minimize FTK Imager. Now I'm going to go to Windows Explorer, File Explorer. I'm going to browse to the R drive. You notice it shows up as local disk here. So this R drive is actually the mounted image. The two registry files we want to look at are the system and software hive. And we're going to use a couple different tools to assess those. If I click on Windows, if you remember the path, Windows, System 32, Config, and here is Software. I'm going to hold Control down and select System. I'm going to right-click, copy these. I'm going to put these on the D drive in a folder just called My Name. So there's the D drive Christian, so I'm copying those two files from the image to my forensic workstation so I can do some analysis on them. I'm going to go ahead and create a subfolder here, just so it's a little easier to know what we're doing. I'll call this registry. And I'll paste those two files there. If you get prompted about being an administrator, just go ahead and click on continue. Looks like they copied. So this is one of the easier ways to do this. You could also, as I mentioned, go to Autopsy and export those files out of the Autopsy. So now that I have these two files here, there's a couple tools I like to use. Access Data's Registry Viewer is a very simple tool that allows you to read a registry file. So the first thing we're going to do is use this tool to determine from the software Hive what is set to automatically run when the system reboots or the system is started. In Registry Viewer, there's a demo version, and that's what this is. You can, if it's licensed, you have more functionality, but we're going to run the demo version. So go ahead and click on No here. We're going to run in demo mode. There's lots of other tools you could use, but this is just a simple one to use. So now we're going to open up that registry file. So we'll go ahead, open, and then we'll browse to the location where we put the software registry file. Double click on that. Now it's open. This is very similar to regedit. It's just a kind of a Explorer type of window. So now we want to browse to Microsoft. And if you remember where that is located, to find out what's automatically set to start up, Windows, current version, and we should expand this, and then we should go to run. And there it is. So on this particular image, there's two things set to start: VMware user process and the Bluetooth authentication agent. Nothing too exciting here. We are able to figure out that this image is from a virtual machine. Otherwise, there's no reason really for this VMware user process to run. And that's the user process that shows up on the bottom right of your computer, typically down here. All right, so that was the first demonstration. The other, and this is useful for malware analysis, because as I mentioned previously in another video, malware often likes to hide itself here to remain persistent. So I'm going to go ahead and exit that. The other tool I want to use, we don't have it installed on the system, so we're going to go ahead and install it. It's pretty simple to use. That tool allows you to take the system Hive and easily extract all the USB devices that were inserted into that particular system. So one of the useful bits of information that is stored in the registry is a history of all the USB devices that were plugged into the computer. So from a forensic perspective, this is often useful to figure out when things were plugged in, especially if a suspect claims they didn't copy something. If the suspect claims they did not copy something from the computer, or they never put a thumb drive into the computer, we can figure out the exact history. And that's stored in the system file. So the tool we're going to use for this is called USBDeview. It's by Nersoft, which has a lot of cool tools. We're going to go to Chrome, and we're just going to go to the site and download it. So if you just type in USBDeview, Deview, it should be the first hit. It might be the second on your computer. It is by Nersoft, N-I-R-S-O-F-T. And here is a description of it. And Nersoft has a lot of useful tools as well. This tool is the one we're going to focus on for this demonstration. So if we scroll down, we can skip over all this. The link to download it is at the bottom. We're going to download the 64-bit version. So if you click on download USBDeview for x64 systems, I'm going to click on the down arrow here, show in folder. I'm going to unzip it or extract it there. And then I'm just going to double click on this. I'm also going to right click on it and run as administrator. A lot of these tools, it's best if you run them as administrator just to prevent some permission issues. So click on yes. So right now, by default, USBDeview will scan the local system and tell you all the USB devices that have been plugged into that system. And what's cool about it, if you can see over here, is it will tell you the serial number of the device that was plugged in, which is very useful if you're doing working a forensic case, because you can tie a specific thumb drive to that particular image. So in this case, we have we're going to look at the system hive we exported or copied rather from the malware image that we mounted as the R drive, if you remember that. If we go back over here, remember this R drive, this is what we're going to look at. So here I'm going to go to options, and if we go to advanced options, we have load from this computer, remote computer, multiple remote computers, external system registry hive. That's what I'm going to select, external system registry hive. This tool doesn't have like an easy way to just browse to the location where we put the system file. So what I'm going to do is copy the path. So let's go back to where we put the system file, and your location may be slightly different. So on Explorer here, I put it under D, Christian, Registry, and there it is right there, System. So we can go up here, click on the title, copy this. So that's D, Christian's Registry, System. We'll go back over here. I'll do Control V, paste that, do a /system, hit OK, and it tells us all the devices that were plugged into that computer and the serial number. So this particular device right here, a mass storage device, it gives us the description. This device was plugged in as drive E. There's its serial number. We know, we scroll over here, the date it was last plugged in, which is 5/4/2015. And it will give us some more information over here. The driver name, path, instance ID, etc. So all this stuff is in the registry, but USBDeview makes it much easier to look at this information. You can certainly manually browse through all the stuff in the registry, but this is much easier. So what is cool about USBDeview as well, it gives you the option. If we go here, let me scroll back over. I'm going to right click on I'm going to right click on the top device, the bottom device. I'm sorry, left click on the top, hold shift down, left click on the bottom, then right click, and then HTML report all items. I could have just done all items, but you could do selected as well. In this case, I selected all items. And this will create a cool, nifty report that has all this information in there. So there it is. We don't really care about that. Don't really want to use Internet Explorer, but it's brought it up by default. So here's the report. This is the one we were looking at. So it's the same information, but it is a little bit cooler to read, and it is in HTML format. I've actually worked a few cases where I was able to solve the case pretty quickly by using this tool, because in one case the person claimed they did not put a USB thumb drive in there, and we were able to figure out the exact serial number, like this one shows, of that device and the manufacturer and the date that it was put in there. In this particular case, they copied intellectual property. So this is just a quick intro video into a couple tools. We looked at USBDeview, which is important to understand what devices, removable devices, were plugged into the registry. And we also looked at Registry Viewer and how to browse the remote registry or the registry from an imaged computer. In this case, we mounted the image using FTK Imager, and we copied the registry files from that image to our local forensic workstation. As I mentioned before, we could have used Autopsy or Incase or another tool and exported those registry files from that tool to our workstation as well.